The connection is not good. Colin, Marina.
Welcome, everybody. Good to see everybody here, some regulars and some new people. And later on, I'll give a proper introduction to our speaker, Herwig Struble, who will be giving a very interesting talk about a development project in India. But in the meantime, you can see the program we normally follow on screen. And we've allocated readers, and so welcome to everybody, and I'll hand over to Siva, and then there'll be some music and the readings.
Thank you, Colin. We are living in Australia, a land that was traditionally owned and occupied by the First Nation people, Indigenous people, for more than 65,000 years. And the history of modern Australia, the last 200 odd years, is some positive and negative. And the negative is one of the important things is that the traditional owners were treated unjustly, and they have been through a lot of pain and traumas. Before acknowledging the Indigenous people and honoring them, I like to read this particular quotation. It's from There is one message to 2023 from the Universal House of Justice. The Universal House of Justice is the supreme administrative body of the Baha'i faith. And it says, there is widespread acknowledgement that the present-day structures of society are ill-prepared to address the needs of humanity in its current travails. Much that was widely assumed to be certain and unshakable is being questioned, and the resulting ferment is producing a longing for a unifying vision. The chorus of voices raised in support of oneness, equality, and justice shows how many share these aspirations for their society. So there is a big cry from our Indigenous brothers and sisters for equality and justice. And one of those important event is going to happen is a referendum very soon to recognize them in the Constitution and to give them a voice in the Parliament. And we are thankful for and grateful to the Indigenous people for allowing us to live in their land and to be patient with the wider community. So we acknowledge and pay respect to the past, present, and future traditional custodians and elders of this nation we call Australia, and the continuation of cultural, spiritual, and educational practices of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. We acknowledge Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander tribes were the first sovereign nations of the Australian country. The Gadigal of Eora Nation are the traditional custodians of this place, they now call Sydney, and Wangal people are the traditional owners of Burwood, where my wife Basanda and I live.
Okay. Yeah.
I had no curiosity
Yeah.
I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God.
Strive that your actions day by day may meet beautiful prayers.
Strive that your actions day by day may be beautiful prayers. Turn towards God and seek always to do that which is right and noble. Enrich the poor, raise the fallen, comfort the sorrowful, bring healing to the sick, reassure the fearful, rescue the oppressed, bring hope to the hopeless, shelter the destitute. Strive that your actions day by day may be beautiful prayers. Turn towards God and seek always to do that which is right and noble. Enrich the poor, raise the fallen, comfort the sorrowful, bring healing to the sick, reassure the fearful, rescue the oppressed, bring hope to the hopeless, shelter the destitute. Strive that your actions day by day may be beautiful prayers. Turn towards God and seek always to do that which is right and noble. Enrich the poor, raise the fallen, comfort the sorrowful, bring healing to the sick, reassure the fearful, rescue the oppressed, bring hope to the hopeless, shelter the destitute. Strive that your actions day by day may be beautiful prayers. Turn towards God and seek always to do that which is right and noble. Enrich the poor, raise the fallen, comfort the sorrowful, bring healing to the sick, reassure the fearful, rescue the oppressed, bring hope to the hopeless, shelter the destitute.
O thou merciful God, O thou who art mighty and powerful, O thou most kind Father, these servants have gathered together, turning to thee, supplicating thy threshold, desiring thine endless bounties from thy great assurance. They have no purpose save thy good pleasure. They have no intention save service to the world of humanity. O God, make this assemblage radiant Make the hearts merciful. Confer the bounties of the Holy Spirit. Endow them with a power from heaven. Bless them with heavenly minds. Increase their sincerity, so that with all humility and contrition, they may turn to thy kingdom and be occupied with service to the world of humanity. May each one become a radiant candle. May each one become a brilliant star. May each one become beautiful in color and redolent of fragrance in the kingdom of God. O kind Father, confer the blessings. Consider not our shortcomings. Shelter us under thy protection. Remember not our sins. Heal us with thy mercy. We are weak, thou art mighty. We are poor, thou art rich. We are sick, thou art the physician. We are needy, thou art most generous. O God, endow us with thy providence. Thou art the powerful, thou art the giver, thou art the beneficent. Baha'u'llah, or Abdul Baha.
Now this is the time that you may arise and perform this most great service and become the cause of guidance of innumerable souls. Thus, through this superhuman service, the rays of peace and conciliation may illumine and enlighten all the regions, and the world of humanity may find peace and composure. Abdul Baha, Tablets of Divine Plan.
Not from the sacrifice, nor penance, nor gift giving, nor with the prayer shall any be holy, only by the fullest service, perfect the faith.
Louder, Merlin. Can you speak louder?
And the uttermost surrender. Am I unknown as sin, and entered into, who doeth all for me, who findeth me in all. Ardoneth always, loveth all which I have made, and loveth me. For love, soul, and that man unto me doth wend. Strive constantly to serve thy welfare of the world by the devotion to selfless work. One attains the supreme goal in life. Do your work with the welfare of others always in mind. At the beginning, mankind had the obligation of selfless service were created together. Through selfless service, you will always be fruitful and find the fulfillment of your desire. This is the promise. This is the promise of Creator.
Make haste in doing good. Check your mind from evil. For the mind of him who is slow in doing meritorious actions delights in evil. Should a person commit evil, he should not do it again and again. He should not find pleasures therein. Painful is the accumulation of evil. Should a person perform a meritorious action, he should do it again and again. He should find pleasure therein. Blissful is the accumulation of merit. Buddhist scriptures, Buddhist Hammapada, 11618.
Know ye all that God giveth life to the earth after its death. Already have we shown the signs plainly to you, that ye may learn wisdom. For those who give in charity, men and women, and loan to God, a beautiful loan, it shall be increased manifold to their credit, and they shall have beside a liberal reward. The Holy Quran.
Do nothing from selfishness or conceit, but in humility count others better than yourselves. Let each of you look not only to his own interests, but also to the interests of others, Christianity. But love ye your enemies and do good and lend, hoping for nothing again. And your reward shall be great, and ye shall be the children of the highest. For he is kind unto the unthankful and to the evil. Be ye therefore merciful, as your Father also is merciful. Judge not, and ye shall not be judged. Condemn not, and ye shall not be condemned. Forgive, and ye shall be forgiven. Christianity.
It is incumbent upon every man of insight and understanding to strive to translate that which hath been written into reality and action. That one indeed is a man who today dedicateth himself to the service of the entire human race. Be anxiously concerned with the needs of the age ye live in, and centre your deliberations on its exigencies and requirements. Baha'u'llah.
O God, my God, aid thou thy trusted servants to have loving and tender hearts. Help them to spread amongst all the nations of the earth the light of guidance that cometh from the company on high. Verily, thou art the strong, the powerful, the mighty, the all-subduing, the ever-giving. Verily, thou art the generous, the gentle, the tender, the most bountiful.
Thank you, Siva, and thank you to the readers. Well, it's my very great pleasure to welcome our speaker tonight, Herwig Ernst Struble, I hope I pronounced that correctly. And Herwig is on the screen with his wife's name, Sadana, in case you're wondering. The short biography is that Herwig was co-founder of Kailani Institute for Community Development, a peace activist and a social worker, born in Austria, now living in India with his wife. And a little bit more information, which I found out. Herwig is a Baha'i, became a Baha'i at roughly age 20. He worked various roles assisting the Baha'i book distribution service in Austria. Was a member of the Austrian Dawnbreakers, contributing vocal, bongos, light and sound, and organizing tours in Central Europe, driver and recording cassette tape and LP, and on the organizing committee for international youth conferences. Skipping a few interesting items in his history, we move up to 1984 to 1996, where he volunteered at development projects run by the Indian Baha'i community, including the Rabbani Agricultural School, the inauguration of the Lotus Temple in New Delhi, and the Baha'i Vocational Institute for Rural Women. Skipping a few years, up to 1996 to 1999, beginning and organizing the Integrated Community Development Program from Austria by co-founding global development project Think Globally, Act Locally, Be Glocal, which is a non-government organization in Austria to support the Kailani Institute for Community Development in India. In August 1999, moving from Austria to India, and from 1997 to 2019, working for the Kailani Institute for Community Development. I won't read everything here because we might hear, hope, a little bit more about it tonight. And I met Herwig and Sadana at the Baha'i Temple in Sydney a few months ago, where he was serving, and they have also served at other Baha'i temples in various countries. So the topic for tonight's talk is Let Deeds Not Words Be Your Adornment. And I'm very happy to hand over to Herwig. Please, everybody, after the presentation, stay muted for now, but at the end, use the reaction buttons for questions and discussion. Over to you, Herwig.
Can you hear us, Herwig?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay, because I have a black screen, I don't see anything. Welcome.
We've got about 15 participants, including yourself.
Yeah. Welcome to the library at the Baha'i House of Worship in India. Therefore, a hot and humid good afternoon from India and a much cooler good evening in New South Wales. As I've never participated in this group and have been asked to give a presentation titled Let Deeds Not Words Be Your Adornment, under the aspect of how can we act to foster world unity, I can only hope that it will be interesting for you. As we have hundreds, if not thousands, of possibilities to foster world unity, I want to concentrate today on the environment. I see a clean environment, among several others, as a base for real world unity to come into existence. If we want to have world unity, we need a world for it. And our world is at the moment in turmoil, socially, spiritually, politically, as well as environmentally. Socially overlays everything with millions of things we can do to work towards this goal. Spirituality is something each person has to develop by himself. I cannot develop your spirituality. I also cannot do very much for the improvement of the political situation, except praying for world peace and world unity. But I, as well as everybody else, this meeting can do quite a lot about the improvement of the environmental situation. And about that, I want to consult with you in a few minutes. First, I want to start with a short presentation of my understanding of the Baha'i world. As far as I know, the structure in other faiths is quite similar. For me, the Baha'i world consists of 3 levels. The first one is the administration, consisting of the holy writings, the interpretations, guidance and development of the administration by Abdul Baha and Shora Effendi, further guidance and plans by the Universal House of Justice, the highest administrative body of the Baha'is, and the regional particularization and implementations by the spiritual assemblies on national and local levels. The second entity of the Baha'i world is the Baha'i community on international, national, and local levels, groups of different sizes. And the third one, and what I'm mainly talking about, the single Baha'is responsible for the individual behaviors. About that level, of course, independent of the religion you follow, we shall mainly talk. Today, I do not want to fill you up with quotations from the holy writings. Besides, I'm not good at it at all. So what is better than to start with the quotation? Let deeds, not words, be your adorning. That states Baha'u'llah in the Hidden Words. And Abdul Baha said, work done in the spirit of service is the highest form of worship. To take these 2 quotes and bring them together with you into connection of our theme, how can we foster world unity by participating in preserving nature? Last winter, as we were already informed, my wife and I were volunteering in the Baha'i House of Worship in Sydney. Naturally, I do not know the exact situation from all over Australia. I've been there for just 3 months and all the time in Sydney area. But generally, I got the impression that Australian awareness about preserving nature is rather less compared to Europeans, where I had lived more than 45 years before moving to India. On the surface, everything looks very clean. Of course, everything is regulated in Austria as well, and people follow these regulations to a big extent. But it seems to me the regulations are more liberal than in Europe. Europe has some sort of disadvantage compared to Australia. It is the population density. So there the environmental wrongdoings are much faster experienced by the population than in Australia. Australia has so much hinterland, like the Anglo-America, where quite a lot of environmental sins can be soaked up, invisible for the majority, for a quite long time. So in Europe, environmental laws are developed a bit earlier and are more strictly implemented than most other parts of the world. I want to work out with you how we as individuals, as well as part of a local community, can contribute our personal shares in preserving nature. I am not propagating a specific lifestyle to follow. You have to decide yourself how you lead your life. So I am propagating that you consciously keep the environment in mind when you plan to buy something, go for a trip, get your new house constructed, have a transport of something to do, and so on. Most of these activities actually need only slight behavioral changes without affecting your lifestyle very much. As usual, everything is a give and take. Sometimes you can do it step by step. For other changes, a clear cut is needed. I would like you to give examples, some only in keywords, where it is possible to be environmentally friendly, so we can discuss about it. We all know this logo, this triangle, 3 arrows, which form across the corners of the triangle, which means recycling. How can we participate in recycling? How does it function in your community? In Austria, for example, it is obligatory for each village to have a recycling center run by or under the guidance of the communal authorities, where households, but not commercial enterprises, can bring for free the still somehow usable trash. When I left Austria in 1999, the recycling center of my village separated more than 20 different fractions, including hazardous waste, which they forwarded to the concerned toxic waste disposal plant. Also, construction waste could be brought there if you had done some do-it-yourself repairs in your house, which would go from there to an organized landfill. Some items, like used car tires or car batteries or an old fridge, could be deposited against the fee introduced by the government. For compostable waste, each household in this rural area had either its own compost pit or the compost bins were collected separately from the remaining waste on a weekly basis. And for these two collections, you had to pay a moderate fee. My one-person household had the dustbin filled with the remaining waste only once or twice a month. All the rest went to the recycling center or into the composter behind the house. Does your community have a recycling center where you can bring your recyclable fractions or waste? Please give answers. I don't see who is answering.
We don't have a recycling center in our community.
Yeah, how is recycling organized in Australia?
I think for the Sydney metropolitan area connecting many councils, there is one or two waste management centers. So they collect the household rubbish. We have 3 in our councils. We have 3 bins. One and the household wastage. The other one is recyclable, like the papers and cardboards and plastic bottles and glass bottles. And then the third one is the green waste, like grass and leaves and things like that you cut from the lawn. So they collect this, the household wastage, they collect every week. The other one alternate every fortnight.
I'm very sorry, I hardly understand anything. I hear that somebody is talking, but the words I can hardly understand.
Oh, can someone else talk and see whether he can hear you?
Well, actually, it was on the news a few days ago that the whole system of
just say something. Let's see whether he can hear. Ask him.
Can you hear me? I think he's got problem with hearing us.
Can you hear? Can you hear what I'm saying?
I can hear everything very good. You is very clear for me.
Oh, okay. So a few days ago, it was on the news that the soft plastic system has collapsed in Australia. And there is a huge
soft system?
Soft plastic.
Soft plastic system. Yeah.
Yeah, that the collection of soft plastic has collapsed. And there is a whole amount of thousands of tons of soft plastic that are stored, and the government doesn't know what to do. The big companies like Woolworth and Coles are trying to think about what to do, but there hasn't been any solution yet.
With the soft plastic, it's mainly plastic that is used for one time packing other things. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that is one of the big problems. And there is something where we can start doing something. Not buying products which are packed in soft plastic as little as possible. This triangle I was combined with a slogan called reduce, reuse, recycle. And the first one, reduce buying stuff packed in soft plastic. There are more and more shops also coming up in Europe, I've heard, which do not sell anything which is packed in soft plastic. I know about attempts or shops or have heard about in the Philippines and Indonesia, which are giving everything packed into banana leaves, the food stuff they sell. So there are possibilities to go around it. Then, of course, packing not in plastic but in paper is environmentally much less problematic than packing into plastic. That is about reducing waste which is not really necessary to produce. Reuse, of course, is the next part. If you have bought something which you have used for one purpose, try to use it for another purpose or use it for the same purpose again before you throw it away, and not each time buy a new one. For example, the shopping bag, and recycle, of course, to get it in a cycle where it is used again in some way. About the soft plastic, I have seen some reports that companies are making bricks out of it, which are as good or even better than the baked clay bricks. Somebody else talking about the soft plastic or giving a comment?
Well, in Australia now, there's more paper packaging coming up, and big companies don't have plastic bags now. They have reusable bags, which is very good.
Yeah, I've seen that some shopping centers are providing you with the transport bags made of cloth. Yeah, absolutely, one thing you should always take care of. With reduce, reuse, recycle, also more words are coming along, like upcycle, to make something new out of an old thing. For me, a very good example, especially in the developing countries, is the, reusing the old car tires, especially the truck tires, for making chapels. I myself have again and again was wearing again and again these chapels, and the ones I have now are, for me, the most comfortable chapels I have. The leather chapels are not so good. And the fifth word is refuse. Tell the shopkeepers, I'm not buying your product because it is packed in a bad way. Like what I've seen, fish tins being put on a paper tray and covered with plastic wrapping. Don't buy products which are offered for shopping like this. And somebody, another example, how to refuse specific ways of presentation of product presentations.
You're asking for more examples of recycling in Australia?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, just very recently, after you left, the supermarkets no longer sell plastic bags, but we can buy paper bags. And yeah. I discovered that the paper bags are very strong and very reusable.
Yeah, the quality of the paper bags, because of this pressure, has become better. And like here in India, Amazon, the company is packing their things in quite strong paper bags, which they send to the customers. So paper bag is absolutely a good replacement to several uses of plastic.
Can I make a comment, Herwig?
Yeah.
If it was my choice, I would never have chosen a paper bag, but the supermarket made the choice And that's much easier when the supermarket or a government makes one decision and we get used to it very quickly.
It's clear, a supermarket, a big chain will always go for the easiest possible way. But you have the choice to bring your own shopping bag along or not. Otherwise, somehow in the store, in the racks, they have to put the product somehow packed. Otherwise, they cannot function. And
very hard to change. Yeah, changing habits is very hard. We need governments to make it easier by making it a rule.
Jung has a hand up.
Yeah.
Can I just ask a questions here? Talk about plastic bottle. When they say that you use milk or soft drink in a plastic is not safe for babies. So if it's not safe for babies, then it's not safe for humans. So therefore, the plastic has to be abandoned. But then we replace with papers and cardboard to, like for a few decades, they use them to contain milk and all these things, pineapple juices and almond juices and everything. But with paper, then you have to chop down trees. And you talk about environment here. In Victoria, the government has stopped people cutting trees from the forest, prevent them to collect the timbers to build construction, to build houses. So therefore, we don't have supply of timbers, and we cannot chop the trees. So we cannot chop the trees to make the house. How we can use, people tell me, oh, they have to chop the tree to make the paper. So how can we do the paper? And we're not building the house because we don't have enough supply for timber, and they close all the factories that chop and trim the wood from the trees to make timbers to build houses. So therefore, a contradiction here. You talk about environment, we got a contradiction of a very great contradiction here. The Victoria government at the moment, they had to ship all that business to Tasmania to create timbers, to collect timbers from Tasmania and bring it back to Victoria to build houses. And now you talk about using the papers and cardboard to contain food. I mean, it's talk about budget, talk about money. Which way is better? We talk about money here, finance. Which way is better and healthier for people?
Well, there are several problems about the same thing. The first thing is plastic versus paper. Plastic is produced out of petrochemicals, which are only renewable over hundreds of millions of years or tens of millions of years. Wood, which is one possible source for paper, is renewable within 20 to 40 years. So that is quite a big improvement from plastic to paper. The other possibilities of producing paper is, for example, bamboo, which is renewable within 5 years, or what is the English word is missing? A plant which is growing within 1 year and producing also even 4 times more quantity of paper out of the hectare than a forest. So there are more environmentally friendly possibilities to produce paper than out of wood to cut trees. The other thing is, for each cut tree, you have to plant at least 2 new trees. And in Europe, for example, most of the countries have today a bigger forest area than they had 50 years ago, because they were consciously planting trees again and again and again.
There is another issue in Australia, and that's use of clothes, following fashion and wearing them once or twice and then discarding them. The rate is really high, and Australia is one of the high ranking in misuse of clothing material.
Yeah, that is another thing what I have also on my list here, the shopping of textiles. The one thing is the social pressure. You have to have branded textiles, you have to have new textiles each month and something like that. But are you giving in to the social pressure or not? That is the one question that you have to decide. The other thing is what everybody should know, that the clothes, especially those which are sold in the big chains, come by more than 80% from very few developing countries in China. And most of these countries have very, very weak environmental laws, or very, very weak implementation of good environmental laws. For example, Dhaka, the capital of Bangladesh, has 2 or 3 rivers which are all completely dead because of the wastewater of the sweatshops, these factories which produce the dresses for the rest of the world, or for the developed world, best to say. So the less you buy clothes again and again, the less you trouble the environment. So the choice, what I said before, that is sometimes only small steps to do, is just to reduce your turnover rate of your clothing.
Can I please ask you a question?
Pardon me?
Talk about climate change.
Yeah.
The earth is getting hot now, and we
Yeah.
still have a lot of problem up the sky there. So therefore, one day you won't see any trees or any plant growing because the coral at the seas is dying. And if you talk about the deep ocean there, the fish dying, the dolphin dying, because the coral and all the plant or the trees under the ocean die because of the earth have been heated up. This is about climate change. So therefore, in the near future, or whatever, I don't know how many years, we won't be able to have trees or plant or whatever. And if we do have trees and forests, we're gonna get fire, like fire of flood. The flood, because all the icebergs in Antarctica are gonna be melted, and all the water are gonna go down and fill up the earth. So therefore, during the future, if God doesn't do intervention, we all die because of climate change, and nobody could do anything about it.
Climate change is again a very, very big subject, and as a result of keeping the environment clean, better, the climate change will also not be that fast. So what we can do is, what we're talking about, what we can do now. We cannot stop the climate change, but we can do our small shares with small steps. And if many people do the small steps, then it is a big step. Like another, you were talking the trees are not growing. Trees are still growing, they grow slowly, but if we cut less trees, then we grow again, then we have a positive effect out of it. It is what also asked again and again, moderation in all things. Not to start to buy because the neighbor has, I have also to buy, is also to think with each new purchase, what shall I purchase? Typical thing is new car. How many years do I keep a car? What car do I buy new? These are questions Do I buy a car which is on petrol, diesel, CNG, LPG, electric, hybrid, fuel cell, hydrogen? We have so many choices, but then again, which one is environmentally the least troublesome? In Europe, electric cars are propagated very much by the government. From my understanding, it is a very, very wrong step. Two causes. The one thing is that the source of the batteries is mainly in a very criminal way done. Like for the iron batteries in South America, there's a lot of child labor involved, and the working condition generally for the laborers is miserable, very low payment. And the other thing, especially for Australia, is for electric cars, you need electricity to run it. And Australia, only 8% of the electricity is produced out of renewable sources, but that was the data of 2022, last year. In Europe, as comparison, almost 40% of the electricity used was produced out of renewable sources. And an extreme example, in Germany, they had already a few days where out of renewable sources, more electricity was produced than was used in Germany. It means they could even export renewable electricity. My personal hope is that the fuel cell is coming very soon on the market. The hydrogen car, it means not the hydrogen directly burned in the engine, but the hydrogen used for producing electricity in the car. And like this, the environment is quite safely done. You can produce hydrogen out of the sun, would be quite good possibility, especially for developing countries in hot areas. Also Australia has a lot of sun. When to make photovoltaics factories to produce hydrogen. Also, what I saw in Australia, the cars are relatively big, using quite a lot of petrol or diesel, because that was mainly the cars I saw. Is it necessary when you buy a new car that it is such a big car? Can a smaller car with less consumption not also be satisfying your needs?
Electric car will create division and polarization among people, because only the rich people can afford it and the poor people cannot afford such an expensive, luxurious car that have very little to do with daily uses.
Thank you, Jung. And we also have a comment from Merlin in the Philippines. We can't stop the climate change, but as an individual, we can do something so that the climate change didn't become worse.
Something people hardly think about in connection with environmentally friendliness is financial investment. And most people have a little bit of money which they can invest, for example, in a mutual fund. And there are existing green funds. That means these are funds where companies are put together, supported, which do not are not active in the use of petrochemicals, are not active in nuclear power, production of articles of war, and that's also this not environmentally, but are against not taking companies with child labor involvement into this. I don't know if you have ever heard about green funds.
No, what's that?
Yeah, it's an investment. The fund managers takes only investments for companies which are have an environmentally friendly agenda. That means that they either produce products which are beneficial for the environment or for reducing the global warming, for example. Research institutions also, then companies which are not involved with the petrochemical the spectrum, like drilling for oil, mining for coal, and so on. These are not included in these funds. Then also usually not with nuclear power, but that is some of the funds have nuclear power in it and others not. So you have to ask this your investment broker about it. He can explain better than I can do. I know there are organizations or companies which rate these funds, which claim to be green funds, and then they really look in detail. Do they invest in companies which are mining, which are drilling for oil and so on? And then these funds get a lower rating than funds which don't. Or they also check for child labor in the fund, or the general working conditions of the laborers there. I know from one of these fund rating organizations is run by a Baha'i in Austria. So that is how I came to know about them, actually, because I know this guy from his childhood onwards. So green to consciously put investments into companies, stakes of companies which working for the environment, or in mutual funds with concentrate on green funds.
Recently in Australia, there has been problem with these kind of companies, that they have corruptly made documents that they are using the money, but incorrectly they've used the money, and then on paper they're showing when the investigators went and checked, for example, timber in a foreign country like Indonesia, they found that all the documents are made up, and is not the money that was supposed to go that way was not used in the proper way. So there's a bit of corruption in these sort of companies as well.
Yeah, this criminality is involved in all parts and all parts of life in all parts of the world. Therefore, also there are then these caretaking companies who like Greenpeace and the whale warriors and so on, or whatever name they have, who check out the other companies and give reports about wrongdoing or good doing.
I guess we have to be watchful and be careful of how we spend or what we do. But I think it's the greed that has taken over the world that is the issue. It's
Absolutely.
causing problems. these sort of problems are just because of greed.
Another sort of investment in the future where you can become you can act very environmentally consciously is if you want to construct a new house. You have the choices of so many different materials, some which are problematic, less problematic, which are more problematic. Interesting are also new technologies, like now there's, since 1 or 2 years, is the possibility of 3D printing of a full house. I've seen videos about it. It looks quite interesting. Within 2 days, the house is the row house is constructed within 2 or 3 days with the 3D printer, which was built on the site. Or the prefabricated walls you can deliver to the houses that are then brick walls, which are environmentally also better than concrete. There you have a lot of possibilities. Do you plan from the very beginning that you have solar panels on the top? You have your hot water heater on the top of the house, or for heating the rooms, do you use geothermal technology with the temperature exchanger, where you use about 30% less energy than with the normal heating procedure? There are so many possibilities which you have to talk when you are planning your house. You have to talk with the architect what to do. For sure, the initial investment for climate neutral house, as they're called, is definitely 20 to 25% higher than a conventional house construction. But this 20 to 25% amortize usually within 5 to 10 years. That means you spend so much less money on energy buying compared to a conventional house.
I think your ideas is wonderful. Thank you. With the solar power on the roof of every house, the engineers will have to build up a photovoltaic cells. That many of them, so they can set up a panel. But what I'm saying is, your ideas is wonderful. But when we run the project, sometimes people, because so many contingencies, expenses rise up, so therefore they run out of money. And so they said, okay, we plan this one for $5 billion, but then it's exploded to $12 billion. So we need more money. So that is not nothing to do with ethics. It's something to do with planning and the supply that we don't have, because no labor, nobody work. Then and they got a supply chain problem. So therefore contingency, and they said the budget will blow out from $5 million to $12 million. So people need more money. So that is one of the issues at the moment.
That is not on your private house, $5 million. I have on my house 2 panels, and that produce approximately 70% of the electricity I use in the household. The only things which I do not have on the panels are the fridge and the washing machine, and the toaster when it is needed. But the toaster you need a few minutes only. So the higher energy needing gadgets, they are not on the photovoltaic system, but the rest, like TV, computer, light, fans, that all is on photovoltaic in my house, and it's only 2 panels. So if you, and the panels have become quite cheap in the recent years, so you can also start slowly, that you start with 2 panels and you add after 2 or 3 years another 2 panels, then you can very soon produce as much electricity that you can export it. And I think Australia will also have the system that you produce electricity on your house roof and the excess you send to the public grid. All over Europe, it is more or less already standard. For Western Europe, sorry, all over Western Europe.
Can you hear me, Ovid?
Yeah.
If you have more to present, you can present it, because there are many others here. Whether we don't know whether they want to ask questions. So, and also Marina has put a comment saying ethical funds. Ethical funds. Marina,
I'm sorry, I hardly understand.
Marina, can you explain what you mean by ethical funds?
Ethical funds is the one in Sydney where we can do the superannuation with which is similar to the green fund. But the only thing is, people, as Ahmed said, we all sort of want the more interest or more outcome from the super fund. So ethical fund and green funds, if we deposit or if we leave a super, we don't get basically very little returns on them.
But there are already some of the funds which have quite good returns. You really have to look into details, or better your investment broker, that you get also funds which are making good returns for the investor.
Thank you.
In Australia, the Fortescue organization is investing a lot of money in green future, including hydrogen. So with hydrogen, how does that work? How do they create that? Yeah.
The hydrogen, the use of hydrogen in cars are 2 different technologies. The one thing is to burn it like petrol or diesel. The engine is, with a slight difference, is the same. So the technology is there. And the second one, more efficient to my understanding, is the fuel cell, but technically not that good developed yet. The fuel cell, I do not exactly know how it works. Out of the hydrogen, electric engine is driven or is charged, and then it works like an electric car.
Okay.
But it has not the batteries, the heavy batteries, the fuel cell technology.
Right.
Yeah, hydrogen being very small as an atom, it's hard to keep it and confine it in a location, and it's also very ignitable with oxygen. So it's very hard to harness it. That's the issue at the moment. But use of hydrogen produces, the outcome is water, which is very environmental friendly.
The exhaust of a hydrogen car is water.
That's good. It sounds like we need hydrogen-powered cars.
Yeah, and that is also, hydrogen companies also need fundings. So the investment in hydrogen companies could be quite a good example for green funding, for environmental friendly funding.
There is a guy on ABC that has got a program which is going to start soon this week, regarding how we can control ourselves for making environment better. And the way he explains that each one of us can do a small amount, and all these will come together and become a huge effect on controlling our environment.
I have still two more quite interesting places for environment preserving activities. The one is connected with the construction of new houses. Around the house you have a garden, and what are you planning to plant in your garden is very, very important for the environment. Many people love the lawn, and the lawn is environmentally the worst solution for a good planting, because it is just one type of plant which is not very useful for the microfauna. It is better that you have flower beds. For example, bees need flowers, and without bees we would not live. Or to plant trees and bushes, if possible, of regional provenience. That means the birds know these bushes and know where they can build their nests in it. And when you give them nice bushes, then they will also be nice to you and eat up your pests and insects and like that. And will also wake you up in the morning with beautiful music. So if you want to have a lawn, okay, make some lawn, but also think about to keep somewhere bushes, keep somewhere flowers, flower beds, and so on. And the other one, again coming back to electricity use, the internet, nobody thinks, hardly anybody thinks about it, that 10% of the electricity produced in the world is used to keep the internet running. 10% is quite a big amount. And what takes quite a lot of this big amount is also the cloud. To my understanding, the cloud is an environmental mischief. So especially in your own private household, keep your data on your computer, keep it on your laptop, download it from the mobile on your computer, but don't keep that in the cloud, because each time you send something to the cloud, there is electricity needed. If you take something out from the cloud, there's electricity needed. Each time you send a selfie to your friends, all the towers around on the way to there need also very, very small amount of electricity, but the mass of the information which is sent makes it then a big, big amount of electricity use, 10% of the electricity produced worldwide.
We have a comment from Usha, but Usha, did you want to say something? Could you?
Please excuse me because I'm under the weather at the moment and I'm not very comfortable to speak.
That's right, I can read it.
Thank you.
So Usha says, glad that we are discussing this important subject. Baha'u'llah tells us to be anxiously concerned about the exigencies and requirements of the age we live in. That's paraphrased. And Herwig, thank you for your invaluable comments.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I have a little bit written that together what I've talked about. If you want, I can send it to Perry and he can distribute to others.
Yes, please.
What I'm worried is about long COVID. Long COVID-19, people still suffer from long COVID, and they say they found virus in the water, The American researcher, they look into the water and they said they found some COVID-19 trace virus in there. So the pollution of the water. So you worry about the chemical that we put into the water that belong to environment and kill million people via a different disease.
Also, can you say something about the social economic projects that you are doing, or you have been involved in the past and what you are doing now? If you have time or you can hear me?
Yeah, but not understand. I hear you talking.
Herwig Vasantha is
Yeah,
asking, can you talk
I think-
about your projects?
Yeah. Pardon? What the projects?
Can you talk about your projects?
The projects are finished. It was a project of 25 years. We were, my wife and me, we were starting an NGO in a backward tribal area of central India. This was an area of 126 villages with something like 100,000 inhabitants when we started. In the meantime, it's 125,000 inhabitants. We started very small and with cooperation with governmental organizations, with non-governmental financing organizations, we could do quite a lot in different areas of development, socio-economic development. We started with awareness building. We had in between a child labor school. We had in the agriculture some inputs. We were quite successful for the first time that in our area vegetables were produced and also eaten. When we came there, you had a little bit of vegetables once a week in the weekly market. Now the marketplace is the whole week full of vegetable vendors, and they make a good business. That is a big change. We had dormitories for girls going to school because it's a quite scattered area with no safe public transport. So the girls usually dropped out of school at the age of 10. And the government had only in the whole area 2 dormitories for girls. The rest were all for boys. So also this traditional thinking, boys get the education, girls anyway get married. So when we started with this, we very soon increased the awareness amongst the villagers that education for girls is also important. Parallel to this, the government also started to build more dormitories for girls. And it's now no more necessary that we had the dormitories as well. We anyway stopped the whole project. So it is not that we saved the area or we made everything ourselves, but we were good catalysts that also the government started to do things because the population saw it was good and demanded more. Or as I said, vegetable production was hardly known in the area. In one of our projects, we had the goal to help the farmers to grow vegetables. And in some of the villages, we were extremely successful, where all the farmers started with vegetable gardening and growing vegetables in bigger amounts. There our input ended, but they could move on and they started to build up their own commercial lines to send the vegetables from this quite remote area to a bigger market on a regular basis. And another thing is they were proud that they were all farming vegetables, and they called the village no more the village so-and-so, but they renamed it as vegetable village so-and-so. And that happened with in several villages. In the healthcare, we did quite a lot, especially health about the reproduction and for girls, which is in a very bad condition, or was in a very bad condition when we started there. Now it is only in a bad condition, but the improvement is coming up step by step, year by year. I said we have finished our project, and our project building we have handed over to a hospital which made it into a maternity station. So also the follow-up of our work is going on. The hostels for the girls is we gave to another organization which were running 3 of them for a longer time. We had 5 in 5 different villages. So everything is somehow also going on. Our main goal was to make the population aware of the possibilities they have and to make them aware that it is their own responsibility to improve their situation. They cannot or should not wait for the government to make everything for them. What was actually happening at that time, especially in tribal areas, they saw it as the duty of the government to do everything for them. Just a moment, I have to work now.
Can I?
Hindi.
Oh.
I think Herwig's coming back.
Yes, he'll come back. Yes.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I just want to know, so what village it was in India?
It was we started from a tribal village with some 1,000 inhabitants. Out of them were 2 tribes, the Bhils and Bilalas. Then we had a Harijan, we have a Harijan colony there. Harijans are the earlier also badly called the untouchables. We have a Muslim minority there, and we have also a few high caste Hindus there. My wife and me were the only Baha'is in the village.
Oh, okay, okay. Oh, you did a great job. And Dominic, so you were the only Baha'is there?
Yeah, we still are.
Okay,
you know,
okay.
if you go in for social work, you must not combine it with preaching the faith. It doesn't help both sides.
Yeah, that's right.
We had a consultation before we started with the project with one member of the Universal House of Justice, Dr. Aberal, and he said, be clear, social work has nothing to do with propagating the faith. Don't mix it up.
Okay,
we never were hiding that we are Baha'is. Like we had quotations of Baha'u'llah hanging in the office, but we never had it as a front point in our behavior and in our work.
Yeah, that's right. And there were 120 villages, you said.
126, when we started, there were 124 villages, but in between 2 villages were divided into 2 each. So now there are 126 villages.
Okay. Are you still continuing working there?
We are no more working there, otherwise I would not sit here in the Baha'i House of Worship.
Okay, okay.
We are now mainly volunteering here at the Baha'i House of Worship. But when we are at home, then people are coming to Sadhana. My wife, she is Indian, and ask for her advice very much still. I am absolutely the exhort there, because being the only foreigner living in the area and not speaking the language, By the way, in our village, there are 10 different languages spoken.
Oh my gosh.
And that is also one of the causes why
Yeah.
I don't even try to learn the local languages.
Yeah. So
Because
how long were you there?
Since end of last millennium.
Oh, okay. So
Since
that would
1999.
be 1999.
Yeah.
Okay.
About 25.
25?
About.
Yeah, 24 years.
24 years. My
Next month is the 24th year that I'm living in India.
Congratulations. Yeah, amazing.
Congratulations.
Yeah. I come from India. I really you've done a great job.
Thank you.
You don't mind if I ask? You don't mind if I ask who created the irrigation channel there? Irrigation for the farm.
The relation for
irrigation. Bring the water into the farm.
When we started, the whole agriculture was based on monsoon rains, and less than 2% of the agricultural land was under artificial irrigation. That means they had in the winter time, when it was cool, a little bit of land where they grew a second crop. Now, about 15%, I think, of the agricultural land is under irrigation, and some of the farmers have enough water even in the hot summer to get the third crop. So that was a big improvement over this time. And also there we participated quite a lot.
You should use the students to come from the city down to the farm and do the irrigation for you.
I come from Austria, but
yeah,
also
but
in Austria.
I mean, the student in India from the city, send them down to the farm and they will do the irrigation for you. You get about 1,000 of them. They run down to the farm and they do the irrigation for the farmers.
The farmers have to do that in this area themselves.
Yeah.
It's not that the investment of the irrigation was supported by the government. That yes, but the farmers had to do the whole work. The material for the pipes for the irrigation were subsidized by the government, were also the procurement was supported by the government, but the farmers had to do it themselves. And we did it mainly also with the whole community of a village, that the villagers had to decide who is best capable and most desirable to get these supports for each single project. We did not only irrigation, we also started with fruit trees, with orchards. We also introduced better seeds and vegetable seeds especially. So there were many steps, also some tools which helps them to work easier the ground, like the traditional shovel and stick are not very effective. So with the new tools, they could work better.
Thank you. So, okay, anyway.
Tell us a little bit about the Baha'i temple there. I went to the opening of it a long time ago. Haven't visited there at all. Tell us a bit more about what's happening there.
My first contact with the Baha'i House of Worship was in 1984, when it was still under construction. 1986, at the inauguration, I was for the first time volunteering here. And then coming from Europe again and again, there was always a few days here. Now it is like that each day, several thousand people are coming to visit the temple. On high holidays, on the central holidays in India, the number can go up to 125,000 people within one day. Then we only try to keep the mass moving. We cannot let them go inside the prayer hall because it is not possible that we can manage it. But usually when 5,000 to 10,000 people are here, we allow them to go inside, they can sit down, can pray. And we have 4 prayer services each day at 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and 5 o'clock. And when the mass is becoming too big, we have to close the gates of the temple, and the people are only allowed to move outside around it. We have the information center where people can come in and get more detailed information. Volunteers are at the temple talking to interested people. Some are coming to the library to read some books. In the library, we have books in 125 different languages approximately. Of course, the biggest group of in one language is the English literature, but we have the major Indian, the official languages of India. We have a library, and from all around the world, you can find books here in the library.
Thank you so much. I think you should go to France. I think you should bring the Baha'i belief into France, and especially the farmers, and talk to them.
Yeah, well, Baha'u'llah, I think, said that the farming, to be a farmer is one of the most important professions. And in the Baha'i community, the majority is from rural areas.
At the moment, the young people in France, from the farmer, they don't want to live in a farm. They all want to go to the city.
Yeah, that happens all around the world. Farming is not an easy job and a very, very badly paid job, actually. Farmers have a high risk of, and the risk is getting higher and higher each year for them with the global warming, because everything is reacting differently. The rain patterns have completely changed. Like we are now in the monsoon season, and I am here since end of June, and so far it were only 3 or 4 really rainy days here. Right now it's dry outside, sun shining. So
same here in Australia this year. Very little rain.
Can I ask about the village where you were helping the girls to get education? Did you get any resistance from the culture or the people?
Did we get any assistance?
Yes, challenges.
At the beginning, it was more or less the argument, what for do they need to get education? What for should I pay for the education? It is like watering the neighbor's garden. That is what they compare to invest in their daughters. But now, after some of the girls have studied in our hostels for several years, the parents are very, very proud that their daughters are educated, and they are not just giving away to anybody, but they really becoming choosy in marrying off their daughters. That has changed. And what we have also educated them, don't marry into a family where they have no functioning toilet. When we started to work there, the toilets did only exist with the richer families. The farmers, they went into the fields, they went into the forest, to relieve themselves, but they had no toilets. Of course, the government has supported that very much to change with making it obligatory for each household to have a toilet. And many houses, the vast majority of houses actually has a toilet. The use of the toilet is not so 100%, but it is increasing and getting better and better each year. We also told the girls to not marry early, to take care of the government order that girls are only allowed to marry at the age of 18. And in our area, when we came there, the normal marriage age for girls was 14 to 15. So when the girl was 16 years old and still not married, then there was something wrong. That has changed, and also we told them not to have 10 children. That was the average when we started. Now it has gone down quite a lot. Also not only because of our work, also the government has programs for them, or has like benefits for families with only two kids for getting governmental posts. So it is not that we did it. It is we were part of the whole thing of development. We were in several cases absolutely the initiators or the catalysts that it was functioning, but we did not do everything. It was also the financing was coming mainly from governmental programs, except our hostels that were financed by a trust, and some other programs with the United Nations organizations like UNICEF and World Health Organization. We had projects over the years. And so it's a conglomerate of working together, like the Universal House of Justice was talking about, like-minded organizations to work together, or like-minded in some chapters. Another thing is, when we started the work there, it was said that the state where we are living, Madhya Pradesh, is the most corrupt state of India. The district of Jaipur is the corrupt district of Madhya Pradesh, and Katiwada, our development block, is the most corrupt development block of Jaipur district. We did not know that before, but we were absolutely in the worst situation, and still we managed to do our work without any involvement in corruption, which was very amazing for many other organizations that we could do it. We did it also in a very specific way. We went to the head of the district, told him, here we are Kalyana Institute, we are in the village culture, and we are happy to cooperate with you, to work with you. But if you expect any kickbacks, please don't even inform us of a project. And that functioned very, very well. When you give at the beginning the clear cut that we do and that we don't do, that functions. And many of the district people were quite happy to cooperate with you, because we could also act as their non-corrupt fig leaf, because there's a lot of pressure on the governmental workers to siphon off money which is going down to the higher positions.
That's very interesting. And it was yourself and Sadhana, just the two of you went there and started this? Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, right. Maybe another thing what we had, we said from the very beginning, we want to settle where we are working. We are not coming like all the other organizations from the big towns, going there for the project and disappearing with our people again. But we took the few educated local people into our staff, trained them on the job, and when the project was finished, either we had a new project for them, or they went back into the village with the advantage, the knowledge they have gained during their work with us, stayed in the area. With all the other organizations, as soon as the co-worker at the end of the project disappeared, slowly the whole knowledge also disappeared. So we had a lot of, over the years, I think we had 100 people working with us directly as co-workers. And in each village, we had so-called village volunteers, up to 5, who were doing on a honorary basis the cooperation in the village, or the coordination in the village. So we really educated the local people, and the local people profited from that.
Has your learning in that project, have you shared that learning, for example, with the Baha'i Social and Economic Development Organization and other organizations?
Just a moment, please. Introduction.
Sadhana, you can talk.
Sorry, can we stop? My work is waiting for me.
All right. Look, that was wonderful, and I want to thank you very much, Herwig, and
You're
maybe
very welcome.
thank you. And Siva, do you want to say something?
Okay. Goodbye.
Thank you very much, and
Thank you.
maybe another time.
Ave Maria. Ave
Thank you.
Maria.
Bye-bye.
Thank
I don't
you.
see you, but I wave to you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Herwig.
Bye.
You can send
Bye-bye.
me a presentation. I will share with them.
Good.
Okay.
All right.
Well,
That was very good.
maybe if there are any questions or suggestions, you want to share, otherwise we can close the meeting.
I think we did pretty well. It turned out to be a very good presentation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay then. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Everyone.